explain what is a computer architecture, like what is a CPU, what are its associated components, what exactly it does, and why is it important. Now, once you are done with it, you have to explain how an operating system works on it, and what are the functions, and why should we, like, why is it comfortable to us, and why are Windows and Linux so powerful and so widely used operating systems these days. Why can't we interact with the hardware directly? And once you are done explaining this, you should explain me in the context of computer networks, like how this video conferencing is going on. Consider the first round as the test. Approximately, as I mentioned, that 170 to 180 students set for the process, and like strangely, out of that, only two got the chance for the first round of interviews. A very important advice from my side that you should check both your emails, that is the college email as well as the personal ID, and also the spam folders of both the emails. This round had a very basic and very short questions. So the interview lasted for about 70 to 75 minutes, and in that period, I answered about 40 to 45 questions. Have the understanding of each and every word, and like I would rather say each and every punctuation mark which you put in your resume. And the interview gave me an array and asked me to derive the first two maximum elements out of it. So like the catch was that I cannot create the copy of the array, and the structure of the array cannot be modified. Apart from the array, I just have two more variables which can store the resultant elements.
Okay, guys. So today we have with us Yash Purohit, and he is currently a final semester student at Nirma University. He will complete his undergraduate in 2024. He has done his previous 2 month internship at Infosys, and he is currently an intern at ARM, which is a very reputed company, as you all know. So we'll today get to know the journey of getting into ARM. What did the interview process look like? So yeah, first I'll let Yash introduce himself so that our viewers can know him better, and then we'll proceed ahead. So Yash, you can introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me, Kanak Bhaiya, and thanks for the little introduction. So my full name is Yash Purohit. Originally, I am from Rajasthan, but I have been born and brought up in Vadodara. And as you mentioned, I am in the final semester of my Btech from the Electronics and Communications department of Nirma University. Also, simultaneously, I am an intern at ARM Embedded Technologies Limited in the Architecture and Technology Engineering Group. So yes, and on the academic side, I am more interested in the subjects of like CPU architecture as well as its components and the embedded systems, which has ultimately driven me to be part of the processes of like companies like ARM, etc. And also on the non-academic side, I would mention that I am more interested in, like, I do follow cricket a little bit, and during my leisure time I like to watch some web series and do some random stuff.
Great introduction, Yash. So the first question is, this ARM offer was on campus or off campus?
Yeah, this from which I got in ARM, that was on campus. It came around in the last week of
Last
August
week of
2023.
August 2023. Okay. So now, what was
Yeah.
the criteria that suppose they have that your CGPA should be 8 and above, then only you can apply? Like, what was the criteria to apply?
Like usually, ARM has a criteria of 8 and above CGPA, like throughout the previous semesters, but this time they had reduced it to 7.5, and approximately 170 or 180 students were eligible for it, and they all sat in the process.
Okay, and were they only open to electronics and communication branch, or computer science are also allowed for it?
Actually, this time ARM started the recruitment for three profiles, that were software engineer, hardware engineer, and applications engineer.
Okay,
So they allowed both the computer science as well as the electronics and communications branch uh, for the role.
now you all would have submitted your resume to ARM. So did they shortlist based on resume, or like all the students were given the first round, and how many rounds were there?
So starting with the rounds, including the test, there were totally 4 rounds to be held, but ultimately it was reduced to 3 rounds. And for like specifically for our college, that is Nirma, there was no resume-based shortlisting. all of the students who applied for the process, they all got the test link. But like I hear from my colleagues that some other colleges, they did some resume based shortlisting.
Okay, okay. So now coming to first
Yeah.
round, do you know how many of them got selected for first round? What were the numbers?
First round, if we consider the first round as the test, approximately, as I mentioned, that 170 to 180 students sat for the process, and like strangely, out of that, only two got the chance for the first round of interviews.
Okay, okay. So first round
Yeah,
is the test, right? 170 to
yeah,
180 students sat for it. So what did the
yeah,
first round consist of, the test? It would be online, I
yeah.
assume.
Yeah. So this year, like as always, they conducted the test in the online platform only, on the Hire Pro platform. But what ARM does differently is that every year it changes the pattern of the test. So if I talk about the previous year, that is for our senior batch, they had approximately 100 questions divided in sets of two parts, that is 75 and 25 each. Now this year what they did, they segregated the entire test into three sections. Now first section was basic aptitude, like you have reasoning and logical ability questions that were around 25 questions, and 20 minutes were allotted for it. Now, in the second round, it was a technical round which had basics of everything, like computer networks, computer architecture, and like all the subjects. And programming also, and it was also around 20 minutes and 15 questions. Now, in the third round, they gave us the attendees an option, like whether you want to attend the questions that are of analog domain or of digital domain, and there were also 20 around questions in that. So I went for the digital domain as per my interests.
So this was the first round. It was online and it got completed. And after how many days did you get the result of first round? That only two of them are shortlisted, as you mentioned.
Yeah. So actually, what happened? Like after the test, they had mentioned that around 30th August, they would carry out the entire process. Like the entire process would be completed in a single day, and there would be three rounds. So until 29th August, up to 9 p.m. in the night, we didn't receive any link, like who is shortlisted, what are the results for the interviews. So like we all had given up the hopes, like okay, we'll target the next company. But in 5 in the morning, like on the morning of 30th August only, I got a call from my friend that check your spam mail, you might have received a link. Because I and one another of my friend, we both received the interview links. He is also from EC branch only. So he first got to know that he had received the link, but it went to its spam folder. So I also checked, and I also got the link for the first round of interview, and it was scheduled at around 12 like 12 p.m. in the noon. So had like 6 to 7 hours for the preparation or something.
One lesson, you need to check the spam folders as well, right? Yeah,
Yes, yeah, like that would be a like a very important advice from my side, that you should check both your emails, that is the college email as well as the personal ID, and also the spam folders of both the emails.
great. Okay. So now only two of them are shortlisted to second round. And what did the second round look like? Was it face to face or it was on Zoom call as usual?
Yeah, actually, it was an online round only, because this time Nirma was like, sorry, ARM was conducting a pool process. So there were many colleges that had participated in that round. So it was an online round. It was scheduled on like Microsoft Teams. So the first round of was approximately a 45 minutes. Actually, there were like originally there would have been three rounds. First was entirely purely technical. Second was a mixture of technical plus managerial round, and the third round would be the HR round. So first round, it for speaking for myself, like it started at around 12 p.m. and it concluded at approximately 12:40 or 12:45 due to time crunches. So yeah, it was purely technical round, and they asked some, like they started with the first question, like uh, introduce yourself, and more specifically mention that why do you want to join ARM. So I gave the entire answer, and the part of my answer was that I was interested in subjects like computer architecture, operating systems, and computer networks. I mentioned these three subjects. So the second question was the very like challenging as well as very good question which I faced in my interview. Like they told me you have to explain all the three subjects like at a very basic level and in an applicative and an like layer wise approach. So he also like for an example you have to uh, uh, like explain what is a computer architecture, like what is a CPU, what are its associated components, what exactly it does and why is it important. Now once you are done with it, you have to explain how an operating system works on it, and what are the functions and why should we like why is it comfortable to us, and why are Windows and Linux so powerful and so widely used operating systems these days. Why can't we interact with the hardware directly? And once you are done explaining this, you should explain me in the context of computer networks, like the interviewer mentioned this, that in the context of computer networks, how this video conferencing is going on. So this was his question. So I took about 10 to 15 minutes to answer that, and like he was like impressed by the answer according to his feedback.
Great, great. And just a question. Were you prepared for this type of question, or like was it out of the blue?
No, this was a question which was completely out of the blue. Like I
And
cannot
and
expect such. Yeah.
and did you get nervous there, or were you confident at that time also?
Like he mentioned one word that you have to answer what you know. So like that time I was because I knew very basics of all these three subjects. I had studied computer architecture and computer networks at that time. Like computer networks was just introduced as we were in the seventh sem, but OS I didn't have that much idea. Only a little bit of idea which I studied in embedded systems. So I explained what my understanding was.
Okay, great. So, considering the online test as first round, this is second round. It lasted 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And other questions might also would be there. So, okay, now it lasted 45 minutes, and after how much time did they, tell you that you are going to the third round as well?
Actually, around like I expected that they would inform all the attendees in about 3 to 4 hours, like approximately by 3 to 4 p.m. But like there was no intimation by any of the mails, so I was just checking all the my emails as well as the spam folders. But in the 5 or 5:30 in the morning, as I had another assignment due the next day, so I sat down to complete it. And as soon as I started, I received a call from the HR that was managing the entire
There
process.
were
That
5 in the morning.
5 in the evening, sorry.
Evening. Okay.
Yeah. 5 in the evening, I received a call from the HR that I am shortlisted for the second round, and the interview would be at around 6 p.m.
Okay. Okay. So now coming, so this is the final round, right?
Yeah, this like became the final round. Actually, it should have been the third round.
Okay. Okay. So now
Yeah.
this, now describe this round. What was it like?
Yeah, so it was a technical plus managerial round. So this also it the interviewer started with like introduce yourself, and like differently to the first round, this round had a very basic and very short questions. So the interview lasted for about 70 to 75 minutes, and in that period I answered about 40 to 45 questions. So there were very in-depth questions also, and there were some basic questions also. Like he asked me about doubly linked list also. He went entirely on the software perspective, and he asked me like what are the languages I prefer for both software as well as hardware programming, what all the scripting languages am I familiar with, and what all subjects I have interest in. So and he asked me some basic algorithms in for traversing doubly linked lists and all other data structures. And this was the technical part along with some other questions also. In the managerial part, he only asked one question like what apart from academics, what do I do? So I mentioned that I took part in some hackathons, and I follow cricket. So we discussed about cricket a little bit as the Asia Cup just began at that time. So 5 or 10 minutes we just had a normal discussion about cricket, and then he mentioned that the HR will get back to me regarding the proceedings.
Okay. And talking about this linked list and all this data structure, so did he tell you to share your screen and write the code, or was it just explained to him?
No, in this round, it was just explaining the algorithm. In the previous round, that is round one of the interview, he gave me a very basic code to write. That is, he gave me an array, and the interviewer gave me an array and asked me to derive the first two maximum elements out of it. So, like the catch was that I cannot create the copy of the array, and the structure of the array cannot be modified. Apart from the array, I just have two more variables which can store the resultant elements.
Okay. And do you practice coding on any of the platforms like LeetCode or what?
No, no. Like I don't do specific coding during my Sem 4 and Sem 5 break, which we get for 2 months. No, actually, I have some friends which are interested in the CSE domain, so they used to do this competitive coding. So they like there was a little feeling of missing out. So I also started. I and my another friend from EC, we also started solving some very basic level questions. So we did that around for only 3 to 4 months, and in that period, we solved about 300 to 400 questions on code forces. So beginner level questions and some of mediocre level. But what these questions helped me for is that they built my logical thinking ability very much. So the training which I got from there, that I applied in my Verilog and MATLAB projects, because from fifth semester onwards there is a very high intrusion of these languages in our subjects. So that helped me for that.
Great, great. And, were there any questions based on your resume that he saw your resume and he's like, why
Yeah.
did you do this project and so anything about
Actually,
resume? Yeah.
yeah, actually, in both the rounds, the question started from my resume only. Like both the interviewers mentioned that your resume is interesting. So, like they first of all they asked me the introduction, and then I had this one project from I developed the LRU cache implementation with the help of data structures, the algorithm. So their question started from that only, and based on that, they developed the next questions. So we can say that 95% of the questions of which I faced in both the rounds, they were somewhat related to what I had mentioned in my resume.
Okay, okay. And any tips for making that like which project should they mention if specifically for your domain, hardware domain? Do you
Yeah.
have suggestion that this project should be mentioned or they should not be mentioned?
Like if somebody is like targeting a hardware domain, because it is like necessarily coding is involved in that, so they would test your logical thinking, like how can you build a code, and if it is erroneous, how fast and how creatively you can solve the error, and how can you debug it. So first of all, they check for the hardware projects, like if you have any good and innovative projects in the hardware domain related to Verilog or VHDL. These times, as per the industry demands, they prefer Verilog or system Verilog only. But if you have done any projects in VHDL, and if you have a good understanding of it, then also they would select you and go forward with you. And apart from that, like if generally we keep 4 projects in our resumes, so if we have 2 projects related to Verilog, it is more than enough. And apart from that, you can keep the projects of your interest, like if you are interested in hardware, but if you have done a very good project in the field of machine learning, then you can surely keep it. And also you can keep some software projects so that they can test your logical thinking ability based on that.
Okay, great. Now coming to the question that many of the interns who go to industry after right after college, they feel like whatever they learned in college from the subjects and all was not no directly helpful in the industry. Industry is working completely on different things. So what was
Yes.
your experience after getting into one? Was it completely different or more or less the same?
Actually, the department, the group which I am working in, that is the architecture and technology group, that entirely works on the ARM architecture. Like you have to have a very deep and very clear understanding of what all risk architecture is, and what all developments the ARM has done on the top of it. So that was 40 to 45% of it was covered in the subjects of computer architecture and embedded systems. So that helped me. Apart from that, what I witnessed is like the industry majorly works on Linux based platforms, and also they have a very like uh, deep requirement of scriptings and all such languages. So if someone focuses on that more, then he or she might have an upper hand when they are introduced to such in the industries. And also, like, there is always uh, a barrier that industrial tools are very specific to them. So some, like, many of the tools which I currently work on, they are internal to ARM only. They neither they are available on open source platforms, neither they ship it to their clients. So that is, like, always there is going to be something new. But if you are updated with the, like, in for a simple example, if you work on system verilog instead of verilog, then you have a 5 or 10% upper hand as compared to other candidates.
Okay, great. And okay, now finally coming to the experience of your internship experience at ARM. So, how's your experience overall?
Actually, I joined ARM on Jan 8th. So the initial week was just about the induction process and what are the different kinds of policies. What like, interestingly, I got my the project which I will be on which I'll be working on. A very like, I got it on the first day only of meeting my team. So they told me that firstly you should work on the newer concepts, like, which ARM has introduced in its architecture. So, for instance, in the current course in the college, we are studying the V5 architecture. But today, ARM has deprecated the V8 architecture. It is entirely shifted its focus on V9 architecture. Which, like, if you have studied V5 architecture, then you will have your basics clear. But V9 architecture is very much different to V5. So the understanding part and all that took a week or like 8 to 9 days time. Apart from that, they also introduced me to the tools, and they gave me some training videos and pages to refer, so that I can get oriented to the work they carry out. And like, from the previous month, I am concurrently working on my project also, and I am also helping the team in the regular work that they carry out. Like, if I explain in very abstract manner, my like I am in the debug and the trace team. So the entire debug and trace extension which ARM V9 architecture provides, that we look after. And we have to verify that if we have licensed our architecture to any client, so the client implements it correctly, and there is he follows the entire rules that are present in the that are provided by the ARM, that specific architecture or code which we are shipping to them.
Great, great. And
Yeah.
how are you feeling in Bangalore as compared to Ahmedabad or Vadodara?
Like, on a personal level, Ahmedabad and Vadodara were very uh, what can I say, very uh, refreshing or very free as compared to Bangalore. Like, Bangalore, you have so many people. But yeah, on the positive note also, you get to meet some, like, a huge number of crowd which is from different parts of India, and they are with their different skill sets and different experiences. And so you get to learn a lot from them. And also you can, from the guidance which they give, we can surely orient ourselves from from where we are to where we want to go. So that is a positive part of Bangalore, apart from the weather also. The weather also is very good here.
Great. So coming to the final question, any final advice that you would like to give to your juniors who are wanting to work into ARM or any hardware domain?
Yeah. So, like, like, the first major advice would only be to create a good resume, because that is your first and a one-page description of yourself. They haven't seen you, they haven't talked to you in the any manner. So the only way to have your first impression is your resume. So you have to, like, you should work on it very deeply, and you should have the understanding of each and every word, and like, I would rather say each and every punctuation mark which you put in your resume, because they focus on that also. So also, regarding the, and second would be regarding the projects, like, you should have one or two innovative projects in your resume. Yes, you can, like, from a personal advice, you can refer the GitHub links and all such open resources that are available on the internet. But you should not just simply clone them, like copy and paste and it is done. You should refer them, you can also use them, but on top of it, you should do something innovative which makes you stand out of the crowd, and so that you also get a deep understanding of what you have done, and so that you can prove yourself to them, that you have a good understanding of all the concepts.
Great advice, yes. So, yeah, thanks for taking
Thanks.
your time out and coming to this podcast. I hope it would be helpful to many of our juniors. Thanks.
Surely. Thank you, Kanakbhai.